Hey everyone, it's Jork. Welcome back. Hope you're doing great wherever you are in the world. I wanted to make this video. Subscriber Lucasey20 had asked last year if I could make a video or two about what's going on with fires in Portugal and maybe some fire prevention, some things that either tourists or people potentially moving to Portugal need to know. So just reconnected, and he had asked, hey, could you maybe do an update video so that subscribers can see what's going on, what Portugal's doing to try to combat some of these things, whether they be active nature or more malicious. So I'm just going to go through. Oddly enough, at the timing of his email and making this video, there are a couple of small fires that are going on in Portugal. And I wanted to make sure that you all knew that if you're going to be coming here for a visit or a vacation, several have already mentioned, I'm going to do the Caminos trails. I'm going to do some backpacking or hiking or camping in the interior, more rural areas, getting outside of Porto and Lisbon and the Algarve. And I really want to experience authentic Portugal, the back country, so to speak. Make you aware that we're still in a drought here for over 70 years. And that's been reported by, I think, almost every news channel. So I believe that that's accurate. And with that, so it just creates more of a fire hazard in more places than ever. And several years ago now, there's some tragedies. Some firefighters lost their lives in kind of a big blaze. And since then, Portugal, it looks like they've made some strides. For example, in 2022, they marked $250 million for firefighters, more equipment, better equipment, some heavy equipment to be able to deal with these fires. Because last summer, if that's any indication, there were fires everywhere from the Algarve all the way up to near Porto. And at any one time, the news channels, let's say the local news, whether it be newspaper or on television, the first 10 minutes of their broadcast was fire here, fire there, fire everywhere. And there was a time, I looked back through articles before we moved, that they suggest that most of the fires that start in Portugal are actually from farmers. They're doing burns and trying to do controlled burns, but they get out of hand. But since 2018, I found that article in late 2017, 2018, many of the fires they fall into a couple of buckets. Either it's the act of God bucket, it's just nature and things happen. Along with that, the other side is man-made. And I'll say accidental, meaning it's well-meaning people. They just forgot to put out their fire, or they didn't intentionally look to set a fire in Portugal while they're camping and hiking. And then there's also, last year was the first time that we saw several articles and news reporting how many fires were started through arson, intentionally starting fires. So if you are looking to come here, and many of you do, you've expressed you like to hike, bike, get into the backcountry and the more rural areas, I'm going to give you this website. It's fogos.pt. And as I'm showing you screen sites, I'm going to add a link to the description. I'm also going to put this in a pinned comment where I normally say, thanks for watching, here's the video, please give a super thanks. I'm going to put in this so that you can monitor. And this is a great resource, especially the summertime. I'll say late spring through late fall. You can find out what fire activity is going on throughout the country. So things like if you're traveling and you're on a highway, some highways get closed due to fires. But if you're going to be going by yourself or a small group in a place where you might not have a lot of cell coverage, things like that, this is a great resource for you to be able to see what's going on throughout Portugal at any given time. And as you are experiencing the rural side of Portugal, I wanted to give you this. I'm going to read this off because it's kind of wordy here. But they've talked about some fire risks and some things that people need to do. And a few years ago, they translated it into English. And so what they're saying here is that it prohibits the following activities relevant to visitors between July 1 and September 30th, namely the use of stoves, barbecues, and grills is prohibited in all rural spaces except where used outside of critical areas and in places duly authorized for the purpose, meaning there's signage or there's a campground that says what you can or can't do. Smoking and all types of naked flames are prohibited in woodlands and forests, which should be a no-brainer. So where I'm going with this is, as you experience rural Portugal, please be mindful. Go to the Fogos PT so you know maybe ahead of time what you're getting into and where fires are. But also, just from a practical measure, if you are a smoker, try not to smoke while you're on the trails, and you're especially in some forested areas. Or if you do, please make sure that your cigarette butt is completely out and there's no chance of it reigniting anything. I've done some looking at homes in some rural parts of Portugal, and in doing that, come across a lot of area that would normally be green that's more yellow just because of the lack of rainfall and because of the drought. And it would be easy for someone to throw a cigarette butt outside of a car, or if they're walking someplace to do something, or a campfire that they don't fully put out could wreak havoc. And again, many of these fires that happen, yes, there's acts of nature, but more and more, it's not so much act of nature. It's man-made. It's person-made. Somebody's hiking, somebody's doing something, and then that creates a situation that calls into question lots of resources from Portugal to be able to put out the fire, puts firefighters in danger, etc. So as you are experiencing and you're wanting to explore more of Portugal, I highly recommend it. Sometimes getting out of the city, getting out of Lisbon or Porto, getting out of the Algarve, and just seeing, I'll say, the eastern half of Portugal, north of the Algarve and maybe south of Douro. It's amazing, some of the mountain regions and some of those rural areas, because that's where you really get, I think, more of the maybe real Portugal, or more of, you're going to learn some Portuguese and know what to say when you're speaking to people. But it's so beautiful. And every year, more and more of it gets burned. So as you're looking to do your explorations, be mindful, whatever you do to put out fires or to prevent fires in your home country, many of those same rules apply. I just wanted to let you know that in the summertime, because of the drought, because of the huge fire hazards here, be very mindful that you're only creating stove barbecues, you're only using those in designated areas. And keep track of what you're doing, like your rubbish. Make sure you're putting that away and putting that in a garbage bag someplace versus leaving that out, because that can often be tinder and help spread fires. So I hope this is a good video for you to be mindful of what's going on. Portugal, as again, they earmarked the 250 million in 2022. They may have to do more as more fires consume the country because of drought, because of acts of nature, and because of acts of arson. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch the video, and enjoy your travels.